Two books. The show and tell. I'm only Feast of the Holy Family could have left out my dad's nativity from Bethlehem, made in olive wood or Jerusalem or something. He bought it when he was visiting. He made 2 or 3 or 4 visits. 2 were filming the 2 videos, which I'm going to try and resurrect. There's a fire, tragically, at the place where they stored the first copies. But I believe I have a VHS, 2 VHS copies, 2 somewhere that I could convert to DVD and show easily today. So I hope to bring them sometime before, in the springtime, before Easter, because one is only about Palestinian Christians, like the Lutheran Christians of Bethlehem, who are Swedish. They take care of Major Square and keep it, it's called the Church of the Nativity. Is actually run by Ethiopians, Latins that are Catholics, Orthodox, they're mostly Syrians and Armenians, and somebody else. And there's like 4, and the Ethiopians are up on the roof, but they've been Christian longer than the Roman Empire. It was the official king's religion of all Amharic speakers shortly after Egypt in 324, and that's before Constantine of the Roman Empire says, by this sign you shall conquer, and it becomes the official religion of Rome, and they stop sending Christians to lines and whatever. So the Ethiopians have been Christians longer than Europe or the Romans, by about 50 years or 70 years, And show and tell for my dad, and then I'll read the 2 stories. They're fairly short, about 10 to 15 minutes each, and we're done, and then it's time to end our worship. I don't know, this is New York Times about Palestine. I'll know more about that. It may have been to keep things from breaking each other. This is what Bethlehem or Nazareth might have looked like. A few houses, and out in the fields were shepherds. That was it. The only big city was Jerusalem, and maybe Capernaum up in Galilee. Those are the only cities that might have gotten to 1,000 or 2,000. Everything else was 500 or less in the time of Jesus. Okay, and little towns like Nazareth and Bethlehem were, 500 or 300, and maybe only 100 houses because people have big families, and then it was fields and shepherds. So that's there, and I'll bring you the coffee hour. This is another keffiyeh. The black one on the table under Margaret's wonderful treats is also from Palestine. Oh, I had one there. I'll put it on when I read. This is a bigger keffiyeh, perhaps worn by a woman as a shawl, perhaps used to kind of nurse a baby in public or carry a few groceries, a couple onions or something. They might have it a little longer. Men often wear it as headdress kind of thing. You've seen guys like that who are from the Arabic-speaking world. And it's used at home. There may be many extras belonging to many people to keep a baby warm when it's hot weather, but it's kind of 85, you want to cover them with something. It may be as ancient Palestine, decorated weaving, I don't know. But for a long time, it's been Arabic-speaking Palestinians. And the most popular colors are black and red. And the Palestinian flag is black, red, white, and green. And quickly, red is bloodshed, like is happening now. Black is death and destruction, like is happening now, and other things. And it's just pride. White is peace. And green is a popular symbol of Islam. There are many Islamic Arabic-speaking flags around Saudi Arabia that are, the word of Allah and a sword and green. That's the flag of Saudi Arabia. And many of the Arabic-speaking countries, there's several small ones in all of North Africa around the Arabian Peninsula, Yemen and Arab Emirates and Kuwait and I don't know what. They all incorporate green in their flags somewhere. And there are Palestinian Christians in the West Bank. They're about 15%. Over in Gaza, they're less, but I heard somebody interviewed on NPR who's a Palestinian Christian, probably Anglican or Lutheran, those are the most biggest groups, living in Gaza, and he lost his home and moved south to the very edge of Egypt, that border crossing with Egypt. It's far in the south. A lot of people are sheltering there with friends or family, or living in the streets, or living in schools or mosques, and they don't know what's underneath. Or the one hospital that's functioning and has a few antibiotics and a few anesthetics and can actually operate is in the far south. That's the one hospital out of 5 or 6. And latest report, 21,000 have died in Gaza. The first week or so, I will. The first week or so, maybe 1,500 Israelis have died. 1,200 kibbutzim and small towns the first day, October 7th. Israeli Defense Forces and a few hostages have died in the meantime. Most of the hostages had grave injuries, like missing an arm. They had a tourniquet, but now they got a infection and has whatever it is. It's not Hezbollah, it's the other one. What's the name of the governing big Hamas? Doesn't have antibiotics because the hospitals aren't functioning, and they're fighting them mostly in the north and central. And the only functioning hospital with some antibiotics is in the south. So they're not going to give one hostage who's missing an arm or a leg antibiotics. They don't have a full course of penicillin. They can't stop the infection easily.
You read your two stories.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I've got to show the things of my dad and I. They're part of the worship, and we're still very early. This is a plate that many, it's from Egypt, Cairo, but many Gazan homes, it used to be Egypt 40 years ago, might display something like this. It's God the Magnificent, God the Beneficent, God something, and right here in the middle, I can still read in Arabic, Allah. That is Allah. It is our one God that we share, Christians, Jews, and Palestinians, and Muslims. So it's from Egypt, but many people put this in a place where, thanks be God, my Lord is most, somebody translated on the back who was from the mosque in Belmont who came here one Sunday. And you can read it at coffee hour, the whole translation. It's only 3 or 4 lines. But it really is 3 metals. It's a beautiful piece of work, and many Muslim homes have something like this on the wall or displayed on a table in the guests, where you receive guests in the living room, or maybe a tapestry of the mosque at Mecca. I'm going to start the story now. This is the last one. This one is my dad's photo of a gate to the old city of Jerusalem. You will see maybe this very gate, maybe the other side of a gate, as his photo. It's in the book, and as one of the illustrations in the second story. That's all, Sue. That's all good, Jim. I wanted my dad's things to be here, and he could talk about them in coffee hour. Get close and talk loud and go. Okay. I'll be a Muslim more. Maybe 2,000 years ago. These are the animals that Jesus would have grown up identifying. They were endemic to Palestine. Some of them are still around in sub-Saharan Africa or way out in the mountains of the Sinai. But there were tigers and leopards and bears, oh my. Very close by. Apparently they were very happy predating the flocks of the shepherds, little lambs and old sheep or goats or whatever. These are all back here available to you for checkout in a library that I organized maybe 13 years ago when my mom died, and they all have a dedication to her, and many of them have a library covering. In the back, it's helpful to us if you check them out, just put your name and your email, phone number, just if we need it for a Sunday like today, we can call it back if you're saving it for your grandkids' visit, or you could do it any week of the year, or a week or two. Well, there's somewhere all the Jewish holidays. You can read about Purim in February, or whatever, Passover, which was the Last Supper. You could check those books out anytime. Just leave us the card. There's a Crayola metal box to put the cards in up top. Okay, first story. Time of Jesus, the animals he would have seen or learned about from Mary and Joseph. And it has the Holy Family in the background, and it's mostly about the animals. I'll try and show the pictures quickly. So this is wordless. The Holy Family is knocking at the door of the inn, and there's no room. And somebody's sweeping, and little mice or rats are running away outdoors. Most stairways were outside. And of course, he was probably born in a cave. A manger was a cave. It's where you fed your, marginal lambs and mamas and took them out during the daytime to eat grass. But you kept them safer from wolves and leopards and bears. This is an oryx. I know it as a sub-Saharan big antelope, but it was alive and well in North Africa, Egypt, the Holy Land, probably Jordan, parts of Lebanon, who knows? Now it only exists in parts of Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, etc. The oryx, it's a big animal. It's called Through the Animal Eyes, and this is her first and last book for Mary, Jack, and Peter. Bees, the land of milk and honey, of course. Here they are, going to Jerusalem. From the clothing and the later picture, I believe this is Mary. They have rented or borrowed a donkey by now. It's really coming. She's spotted or has cramping or something. And they're heading into Jerusalem and walking as Joseph beside her. I doubt they brought a donkey all the way from Nazareth. I think she walked most of it, and the last few days they rented or borrowed a donkey. Long ago, the emperor decreed that every man should return to the city of his birth and be taxed. Crows or ravens or geese were well known everywhere. The journey to Bethlehem was long and difficult for Joseph and Mary, and she would soon give birth. How are you doing? Are the pains bad now? This is a vulture. It found something craggy on a house and laid there was 1 or 2 eggs. Turkey vultures are everywhere. Her child would be the Son of God, whose kingdom would have no end. And yes, there were Asiatic lions in the Holy Land. Maybe a few, maybe in the mountains, but Jesus would have heard about them as he grew, and stories are told about our missing sheep. But Bethlehem's inns were full and had no room for the weary travelers. It's the same picture with the little mice or rats running outdoors on being swept off the outdoor staircase at, early in the evening. So a humble manger became blessed with the light and life of Jesus. And we believe, and my dad has been inside a cave that is set up to look like a 2-prong cave. You put your animals in the front with the shorter prong, and the family stays in the cleaner part with minimal animal poop. And that's why they make the fire instead of warm, or the animals keep them warm at the entrance to the cave. Because if there's no house that has a spare room, they probably are in a cave. There aren't any big trees except olive trees. That evening, in the nearby country, shepherds were watching over their flocks. This is a trained sheepdog, probably similar to a German shepherd, but they knew to round up the flocks and not eat the lambs. And we're throwing scraps from the shepherd's fire. Probably sheep or goat. Suddenly, the angel of the Lord appeared before them, and even the mightiest trembled. This is a Palestinian wolf. Up on a crag, or a mountain, or in the Sinai Desert somewhere, anywhere they could have a rabbit or a rat or a snake for dinner, they lived. And they loved getting baby lambs or old sheep or goats. Fear not, an angel of the Lord told them, for I bring you glad tidings. A Savior is born, Christ the Lord. Rabbits or hares are everywhere. In 4 BC, there was a conjunction of the planets, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus together, both at sunset and later at sunrise. Would have looked very impressive if there were no city lights. Ben Franklin had not invented street lighting yet. There were no lamps after 7 or 8 o'clock at night. The sun was down, people had supper, and they went to bed. Why waste olive oil, right, if you were poor? And so that would have looked very interesting. It might have lasted for several lights. It might also have been the tail of a comet, like Stephen and I and my dad saw in Sweden. Very bright. The Hale-Bopp comet, where there's no lights on farms, is wow when you're driving country roads at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And so it may have been that the wise men of the East, probably Persia, probably near Iran, or the Sea of Qom, saw, because there are many archaeological ruins of things that look like observatories with little holes and little slots, depending on where the moon goes, where the planet goes, where Venus goes, things they could look at with the naked eye. And they probably came ultimately from Persia and probably took more than 2 weeks to get there on camels. But that might have been the great star that we hear about if you don't think it was a miracle from God. The shepherds hurried to Bethlehem to find the baby of which the angel spoke. There's the oryx and some shepherds. Big animal. Now only in Africa. And when they had seen him in the manger, their hearts were filled with great joy. You have seen the cave before. Now the flocks and the shepherds. Hey, it was entertaining. There was a new baby crying. It was interesting to come and say wonderful tidings that the baby is healthy and the mother too. Even if they weren't special, that baby. To us he is now. Giving glory to God, the shepherds spread the news of the child's great destiny. And there are the bees, the land of milk and honey, of Palestine. Everybody was Jewish then. Islam had not come until about the year 600, I'm sorry. And Christianity doesn't become an official religion until Rome, makes it their official religion around 420 or something, Constantine. Yes, and I'm sorry, and Ethiopia predates them by 6 years. That's it. Okay. Soon, 3 wise men from far in the east learned of the newborn king and sought to worship him. They probably didn't arrive on 12th night, probably out there in February someplace. If Jesus was born in the cold time. King Herod in Jerusalem listened with concern when these magi told him of their quest. In the background, mean King Herod is listening to the 3 wise men, and he's being entertained by a musician and a Palestinian cobra. It's a flute player, like in India. As the wise men continued their journey, the bright star guided them to the child in Bethlehem. And this is what they saw, and their shepherds and wise men and gifts and everything. Still staying in a cave until she's well enough to travel. There's a little owl up here. It looks like a barn owl to me. They surrounded him with offerings of the finest gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Frankincense and myrrh were from Ethiopia. Gold was everywhere, but in very short supply. But while the Magi rejoiced, King Herod was plotting to destroy this threat to his power. King Herod is being stung by a wasp. So the wise men, warned by a dream that they should avoid the treacherous king, took a different path home. And as they're going home, maybe in Syria or Jordan, they see a Palestinian leopard. They probably headed to Damascus and then home, down the Euphrates River and up to Persia. And Joseph fled with Mary and the child to Egypt, beyond Herod's grasp. They probably went the sea route, what is now Gaza, and ended up in Cairo. There's a Sinai bear. Wow. Now Israel proper, the Sinai. And they arrive in Egypt, and they see a little lynx or similar animal. Cats were domesticated as granary keepers and later temple animals in Egypt first. So these are the ancestors of our house cats, per keeper. That's the end of the story. The last pages. In Egypt they remained until an angel told Joseph it was time to bring his family home, where Jesus would fulfill his wonderful destiny. The very end is about each animal, their name, where they were, when they became extinct in that region, etc. If you want a little more information about certain animals, you can look. It'll be around a cup here. This is the second story. It's much shorter. My dad gave it to the library. It's also in our library for you to use and check out. This is his picture. I pasted it in that he took in entering the old city of Jerusalem, one of the quarters. I don't know which one. This is about 2 boys. You should know that the Jewish Hebrew-speaking boy always wears a kippah or yarmulke, the little skull cap that you're familiar with, and the Palestinian boy always is cold. They're always wearing jackets and pants like little 8 or 9-year-old boys might. They live within blocks of each other. They can go back and forth between the Jewish quarter and the Muslim Arabic-speaking quarter. And the other 2 quarters, the Christian quarter and the Armenian quarter, they're mentioned briefly. But what I didn't know before I looked at this map, you can look up close, is that the Jewish quarter is right under the Wailing Wall. It's the smallest of the 4. The biggest quarter is the Muslim quarter, because there are lots of souvenir shops and restaurants, and it's right under the Al-Aqsa Dome of the Rock mosque that is so important in Islam. And then the Armenian Christian quarters were kind of later parts of the city, because of course you had to be Christian to live in one of those places. Either Orthodox or people like Lutherans and Catholics live in the Christian quarter. and that's the second smallest quarter. Armenia is third, and the Muslim quarter is biggest. So that's useful to know. But they may have been sent back and forth. Mom in either quarter could have said, "Go get onions down the street. I'm making soup or whatever," and they would have run into the Jewish quarter or run into the Arabic-speaking Muslim quarter and come back home. They're maybe 10 or 12 blocks apart. One in the Jewish quarter with the kippah, the yarmulke, and one in the Arabic-speaking Palestinian quarter. All Arabs living in Jerusalem and West Bank and so forth have to learn Hebrew in school. Most Jewish kids never learn to speak Arabic, but their cousin languages, a lot like Portuguese and Spanish, or Spanish and Italian, or even French and Spanish, so they're very close. Long ago, they were all Aramaic to Jesus. That's my introduction. Mostly I'll just read, except for brief comments, and show pictures, but it's shorter, but more reading. In the walled old city of Jerusalem, which some call the center of the universe, and really means city of peace, Yerushalayim, Avi waited. He sat on the stone front step of his apartment, the silver mezuzah, with a blessing, in the doorframe above him, sparkled in the sun. Most Jewish homes, even in America and Canada, have a mezuzah at the door. And you twist a two-finger kiss for the blessing of God that's inside. It's something old from the Torah. It's a little scroll. And my Jewish friends both had mezuzahs at the doorway. These people are very old, very conservative, very Orthodox. You can see they're wearing clothing from Europe from long ago. They're probably Yiddish speakers. Then he saw her, the small, plump cat with long, white fur. "Shalom, hello, little cat, Shatul," he called softly. "I have some warm chicken for you." The cat purred as she ate. Then she rubbed against Avi, the Jewish kid's legs. "Avi, my love, are you feeding that cat again?" his mother teased through the kitchen window. "We'll never get rid of it now." But Avi loved this fluffy white cat. "There is no other cat like you in all Jerusalem," Avi whispered. "You are a miracle. A gift from heaven, the Holy One. And if you really speak Hebrew and are into Jewish things, you never say the name of God. You might call the name, our Lord, our Father, creator of the universe, but you never say the name. It's a form of the verb to be. You don't even say, "I am a teacher, I am an American." You say, "I, teacher, I am American." You never say the verb to be in present or past tense, ever. It has to do with Moses and "I am the God I am," burning bush. The cat gazed at Avi with big, clear, blue eyes, as blue as the sea. "Meow," she said. Then she padded hastily down the wind-chilled street. It's cold. It's winter and 3,000 feet up in Jerusalem. Avi watched, wondering where she was going. Suddenly he had an idea. "Cat," Avi called. "Next time I will follow you." The cat moved through the winding streets of the Jewish quarter. She ducked into shaded cobbled alleyways, pranced through sunlit courtyards, fragrant with sweet smell of rosemary. Soon she reached the hustle and bustle of the Muslim quarter. Here the narrow street was filled with shiny brass pots, colorful plates, tapestries, colored things on fire. They were known for ceramics, brasswork, glasswork. You might even buy a lovely menorah or a chess set down there. And this guy is Jewish and he's going shopping. And this woman is Palestinian, being very modest and covering up. And this guy's wearing a keffiyeh like I am. Hamoudi, the Arabic-speaking kid, waited outside his family's small restaurant as the cat headed toward him. "Ah, there you are, little white one. Itzayik. How are you?" Hamoudi asked gently. He put down a plate of lamb and a bowl of water. "Hamoudi, my darling, are you feeding the cat again?" his mother teased from the open doorway of their small restaurant. "It will never leave us now." Here's his mom, Hamoudi feeding the cat, and right next door in English is souvenirs. Anything an American or Canadian or British Jew or visitor might buy, including what I think is a Hanukkah. I think I count 9 candles. But it's probably made beautiful, made of ceramic or brass, and you put it in your suitcase and bring it home. And other glass and brassware. Old City Bazaar, it says. But Hamoudi loved the silky white cat. "There is no other cat like you in all Jerusalem," he whispered. "I know you must be a miracle, a gift from Allah." "Meow," the cat said. Then she padded off through the crowded streets. Hamadi watched, wondering where she was going. Suddenly he had an idea. Cat, he called, next time I will follow you. But the next time did not come. In the Jewish quarter, Avi waited for many days. The cat was nowhere to be seen. There were many other cats, skinny, scrawny, wild, hopeless eyes. They darted in and out of alleys and climbed on garbage bags, but none of them was the beautiful white cat. Avi wondered and worried. And in the Muslim quarter, Hamadi waited too. Each day he prepared the cat's favorite dish of lamb leftovers, but there was no sign of her. There were many other cats, big ones and small ones. They all had bony ribs and patchy fur. Not one of them was the beautiful white cat. Hamadi worried. Jewish quarter, Muslim quarter, Avi, Hamadi. About 4 or 5 pages, yeah. It was many weeks later that the white cat appeared on Avi's doorstep. What happened to you, cat? Avi cried. You look so skinny, and you look dirty too. He ran into the kitchen. Then he rushed outside and put fish and a big bowl of water at the little cat's feet. Nobody will eat pork, neither Muslim nor Jew. But lamb, chicken, fish, it doesn't matter. He ran into the kitchen, rushed outside, put fish in a big bowl of water. She ate and drank heartily and purred. By the time the cat started on her way, Avi followed her. He chased her through the shaded alleys and carved archways of the Jewish quarter. He followed her all the way into the Muslim quarter, and there the cat padded right up to a small restaurant. As Avi watched in amazement, she jumped into the lap of a boy who fed her something from his hand. He's rushing to follow the cat, and then he sees Hamadi feeding the same cat in the Muslim quarter. Avi frowned. That's my cat. I mean, there's tension, and they're probably the Jewish kid is speaking Hebrew, the Arabic kid is speaking Arabic, and they understand basics very clearly because it's like Spanish and Portuguese. Got it? Avi frowned. That's my cat, he shouted. It is not, Hamadi yelled back. She's my cat. The cat jumped out of Hamadi's lap and began running down the street. Now see what you've done, Hamadi accused. Now see what you've done, Avi answered back. But just then, something very unusual happened. Maybe every other year or every third year, it began to snow in Jerusalem. Snowflakes floated gently down in the air, swirling and twirling on their way to earth. It's like the Santa Cruz Mountains from here, about 3,000 feet. Every once in a while it snows. The cat stopped for a moment and sat in the feathery whiteness. She sniffed at the cold air. My cat is getting all wet, Hamadi said. You mean my cat is getting wet, Avi said. She could freeze in this weather. They're about 9 or 10. Avi added. Hamadi remembered how thin and scraggy the cat had seemed when she was in his lap. We better help her then, he said firmly. The boys ran together. This is an Armenian prelate. He's probably coming from the Armenian quarter, or he might be Syrian. It's Orthodox Christians. Just down the street and through that doorway. That's how, there's thousands of people in old Jerusalem. It's only about a mile across. Okay. The boys ran together, but the cat rounded the corner and disappeared into the streets of the Christian quarter. They tried to follow her paw tracks, but the spinning snow raced them faster than they could be found. Side by side, the two boys continued through the streets and into the Armenian quarter, catching glimpses of white fur through gusts of snow. The boys searched street after street. Finally, they heard a faint sound like a muffled whine in the wind. They stopped and stepped closer to a darkened alley. This is probably behind a store or restaurant. This is like clean, fresh garbage, just bag stuff and boxes, and maybe somebody moved, something like that. Hearing the sound again, Avi and Hamadi began to run, slipping and sliding on the snow-covered stone street. The cries were coming from some bags and cardboard cartons. The boys pushed them aside until they came to one small box, Curled inside was the skinny white cat. She was not half frozen, and she was not alone. You can see mama cat, 2 kittens, and 2 kittens. They all happen to be white. They might all be males. A male with blue eyes is usually sterile. And who knows? But we had one with green eyes when I was a kid for 10 or more years. 14, 12. It's a miracle, Avi said with a smile. She has kittens, 4 of them. Truly a miracle, Hamoudi agreed, kneeling down to peer into the box. Avi laughed. No wonder the mama got so skinny. Hamoudi nodded as he rubbed the fuzzy velvet tummy of one kitten. What will we do with all these cats? Avi asked. It's too dangerous for them to live outside in a box. They could freeze or be killed by dogs or mean people. Hamoudi thought about all the stray cats of Jerusalem with bony ribs and patchy fur. We cannot let them live on the streets. Then we must take them home, said Avi. Yes, said Hamoudi, there's plenty of room at my house for 5 cats. Oh, no, Avi said quickly. I saw the mother first, so I get to take them home. Hamoudi scowled. Silence crackled in the air between them. They're not friends, they're just acquaintances. Then Hamoudi said sharply, how do I know that you saw the mother cat first? You can't prove it. Neither can you, Avi snapped back. Who gets to keep all 5 cats? 1 page or 2 to the end. Leaving her kittens, the cat padded over to the spot where the boys stood arguing. She began to purr loudly and rub against the legs of each boy. Her tracks made a figure 8 in the snow around one set of legs and the other. Avi bit his lip and looked away. She does not want us to fight, he said slowly. Hamoudi stared at his feet. She wants peace. Shalom. Salam. Then we will share, Avi said. Hamoudi smiled. So the boys, rummaging through the boxes and cartons, they found 2 smallish boxes, just the right size. They put 2 kittens in each box. Who will get the mother cat? Avi asked. I think she wants us to share her too, Hamoudi said with a grin. Yes, said Avi. She can travel back and forth between us the way she did before. So each boy gets 2 kittens. Then the boys headed back to their homes in the old city of Jerusalem, the place they call the center of the universe, the city of peace. Shalom Yerushalayim, Salam Yerushalayim. It's the same words, it's the same name. It means city of peace long ago. With great care, each boy carried 2 kittens in a small box. They were followed by a proud, white, blue-eyed cat they named Snow. This is the picture that looks very much like my father's picture at the very beginning. You can look at copy art and compare it. We think it may be the same alleyway, except he has a bicyclist and some Christmas wires or air conditioner wires or something hanging out a window. And there's a little more information from the author about the old city. This was her first and last book for children, but clearly she